He showed up in a tailored suit ready to lead a major tech summit, but hotel staff looked him over and told him to wait outside what happened next. Left the entire company reeling. It was just before 8 a.m. when Darius Whitfield stepped out of his black Lincoln Continental onto the hotel's circular driveway in downtown San Jose. He adjusted the cuff of his navy blue suit jacket, the tailored fabric catching a bit of the morning light, sharp lines, crisp shirt, Italian leather shoes. Everything about him said intention, precision. But the valet didn't move, not even a step forward. Darius held his keys loosely in one hand and glanced over. The young man looked away, pretending to check his phone, then turned to the car behind Darius. "Hey, can you park this one?" The valet asked his co-worker, gesturing past Darius. Without acknowledging him, Darius looked at the glass doors of the hotel. No big signage, no red carpet, just clean glass and a quiet foyer. Nothing to suggest what would unfold inside those walls. He took his keys back, parked his car himself, and walked across the drive. As Darius entered the hotel, the concierge's smile vanished quickly. The woman at the front desk barely looked at him when he explained he was there for the Summit Net conference. When he mentioned being the CEO and keynote speaker, there was no apology or recognition, just a tight smile and instructions to wait outside. Another staff member appeared, looked him up and down, and also directed him outside. Meanwhile, other guests arrived. A white man in a gray plaid suit received warm greetings and was escorted through the lobby while Darius stood outside. It was 8:09 a.m., and his speech wasn't for another 51 minutes. Something cold was boiling inside him, not anger, but something deeper. He had built a company from scratch, yet was treated like he didn't belong because he didn't match their expectations of what a CEO should look like. His assistant Jalen called to check if he'd been greeted. When Darius explained he'd been asked to wait outside, Jalen offered to come down, but Darius decided to handle it himself. He straightened his tie and walked back through the doors. The same woman told him again to wait outside, but Darius calmly stated his name and position: founder and CEO of Whitfield Dynamics, who had booked the Redwood Room and 2 floors of suites for the conference. The woman finally showed doubt and called for Gina from events. Meanwhile, Darius noticed his board members being warmly greeted by a hotel manager who materialized to shake their hands, but turned away when Darius tried to get his attention. Darius calmly explained to the desk clerk that he wasn't a guest or security. He was the reason these people were staying there. He had organized the entire summit, bringing 60 influential tech investors into the building. When the staff member with the walkie-talkie returned and asked if he was really the CEO, Darius replied with a small smile that he not only built the company but financed it, wrote the first line of code, and signed the contract with the hotel. He added that he had $5 billion under management and had almost trusted them to help grow that. The silence that followed wasn't disbelief, but discomfort. Gina from events finally appeared, apologizing for the delay and escorting him to the Redwood Room where investors were already gathering. The same staff who had asked him to step outside now parted like water. Darius followed without speaking. He didn't need to. They had failed to see a man who owned the space, standing still, giving them a chance to correct themselves. What came next wouldn't be a lesson in anger, but in memory, and Darius had an excellent one. In the Redwood Room, investors were filtering in, chatting over coffee. No one knew what had happened in the lobby. Instead of going to the podium, Darius stepped into a private lounge and called his head of operations, Tammy. He instructed her to move the summit to the Hayes Hotel immediately and cancel all bookings at the current hotel. When Jalen asked if he wanted to run through slides, Darius explained they were leaving. Jalen understood immediately, asking if they had even tried to make it right. Within minutes, Jalen was quietly passing the word through subtle handshakes and nods about an emergency relocation just a few blocks away, while Tammy locked down their backup venue. When a hotel manager finally appeared to apologize for the mix-up, Darius calmly stated they hadn't offended him. They had disqualified themselves. It wasn't about ego, but standards. As Darius exited through the same lobby where he'd been told to wait outside, the desk clerk watched him silently. He didn't stop walking. A black SUV was waiting out front and Darius got in, his phone already ringing. This wasn't the end of the story, it was just the part where others started catching up. By the time the first tray of croissants arrived at the now half-empty Redwood room, most guests were already blocks away at the Hayes Hotel, where staff welcomed Darius as if they'd been preparing for weeks. Back at the original hotel, confusion reigned as guests left, canceling room keys and bookings. Calls flooded in. The company had canceled everything: suites, conference room, catering. At the Hayes, Darius addressed the crowd, explaining the venue change calmly without bitterness. He told them he'd been asked to wait outside twice by staff who never asked his name. He had parked his own car, reintroduced himself, and explained who he was. But in that space, none of it mattered. He didn't believe in yelling or dragging people down. He believed in moving forward somewhere that treated their business with the seriousness it deserved. The crowd applauded not out of pity, but respect. Meanwhile, at the first hotel, conference signage was being taken down. The manager stared at the formal notice from Whitfield Dynamics terminating their agreement, effective immediately. No lawsuit, no threats, just a clean severance and a heavy cost. "The guest we didn't recognize," he told the general manager. He was the event. Later that afternoon, Darius sat in the back of an SUV with Jalen, who asked if he wanted to issue a public statement since people were already posting about the incident. Darius declined, explaining he wasn't there to go viral. When Jalen asked why he hadn't confronted them more directly, Darius shared a story from when he was 19, walking into his first interview with an impressive resume, but being mistaken for a food delivery person. He waited 2 hours, but the interview never happened. They forgot he was there. He explained that he once thought achievements, degrees, money, and suits would stop people from making assumptions, but they don't. He left the hotel because he didn't need to prove anything or make them understand. He needed the people watching to see what it looks like when you refuse to beg for respect you've already earned. His father used to say, "You can't force people to see you, but you can choose where you won't be invisible." The fallout started quietly, not with headlines but whispers in conference rooms, then emails. By midweek, 3 other companies had canceled their bookings with the same hotel. The hotel tried to patch the damage with offers of complimentary bookings and spa credits, but the email didn't make it past Tammy. Darius never replied because when trust breaks like that, it's not repaired with discounts. Word of the relocation spread to media circles, then into text threads and happy hour conversations where young black professionals raised glasses to Darius Whitfield, not because he had clapped back, but because he hadn't needed to. Sometimes the strongest move isn't slamming the door. It's walking away from the room like it never deserved you in the first place. At a meeting with potential investors from Seattle, one commented that the venue switch told them more about Darius's leadership than any slide deck could have. "It's rare to see someone with that kind of control under pressure," another added. "That's where trust comes from." That evening, speaking with Jalen about the media coverage, Darius noted they always leave something out, but the people who needed to know got the message. Looking at their office, he explained he hadn't wanted it to be flashy or impressive. He wanted people to feel seen. When Jalen suggested people see him now, Darius quietly corrected him. "They always saw me. They just never expected me to be the one signing the checks." The next morning, Darius met with Elijah Green, a junior analyst who wanted to know how Darius stayed calm during the hotel incident. Darius surprised him by admitting he hadn't stayed calm. He just didn't let them see it. He explained that the hotel staff saw a man standing where they didn't think he should be, and nothing else mattered, not the work, contracts, or conference. Darius explained that the real fight wasn't about proving anything to them. It was about teaching those who come after them that they don't need approval to make moves or permission to belong. Never trade your composure for someone else's ignorance, he advised Elijah. If they misjudge you, let them. But make sure the space you're building never makes anyone else feel like they don't belong there. That's what it means to lead. You don't yell at the wall, you build a door somewhere else. As Elijah left, he thanked Darius for showing them how to move without ever lowering himself. Outside, traffic moved steadily like the world hadn't noticed, but the people who had noticed wouldn't forget. This wasn't just about one man and one hotel. It was about all the rooms people walk into where someone looks up and sees only half the story. It was about the quiet ways power can speak through action, not reaction, and about rewriting the rules without ever picking up the pen they tried to hand you.